Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Midwest Medium Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. You are either listening to me on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts, or you're watching me on my YouTube channel. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so. It's just very simple to find at June Hessler. Today, you guys, I want to officially share. It's been on my blog, but on the podcast, I want to officially share that I have been baptized and confirmed. YouTubers are looking at my certificate right now. It is official. I'm very happy, and it was such an amazing experience. So today, the purpose of the podcast episode today is to briefly discuss my OCIA journey. My sponsor and godmother, Terry, has agreed to come on to the podcast. So she will be on. We have it scheduled for a few weeks, so it's a little bit yet. But she's going to come on and we're going to talk all about OCIA journey from my perspective as the student and her perspective as the sponsor. I had not met her before this process. I met her during the second class of the OCIA program. So I'm really excited to share her with you. She's very sweet. I like her a lot. We have a lot in common. So she'll be coming on. But today, I wanted to give you a brief um, overview, I guess, of my experience. And I also want to talk about something that keeps kind of popping up in my life here and there. And as a medium, I feel that it's a responsible thing to talk about. I don't know other mediums, at least I haven't come across any, who talk about the importance of having a will and a healthcare directive. So I want to definitely talk on that today. So first, let me show you a few things that I received from some very kind people. Once I was baptized and confirmed and received my first communion, all of this took place on March 30th at my church during the Easter Vigil, and it was a very humbling and beautiful experience for me. And I'm so glad I went through this process. If you follow my work, you follow the podcast, you know that I was never baptized or confirmed. And as I got older, it just started to nudge at me more and became more and more important. And then finally I asked Jesus about a year ago, actually. I said, I'm not baptized, I'm not confirmed. How big of a deal is it really? Like, am I going to be in trouble? I don't want to be in trouble. Is this really a problem? And he asked me to accept the mission of the Eucharist, which is a word I've never talked about. I talk more about this on my blog at junehessler.com. You can check it out. I'll make sure to put it in the show notes for easy access. So it's really interesting how all of it really kind of came into my life. So real quick, if you're on the YouTube channel, here are some of the beautiful prayer cards that were gifted to me. There's a bunch here. So I've been going through them a little by little, reading through them. I have the Rosary prayer card that was also gifted to me. And you guys, I have to show you these beautiful rosaries. This one here is from Terry, who you will meet in a couple of weeks. Very, very pretty. And this one is from the woman who is in charge of the faith formation program at my church. She was my teacher in the OCIA program. Another beautiful rosary. So I'm so glad to have these. I already did have a rosary that I purchased for myself. It was either Amazon or Etsy. I don't remember. I think it was Amazon. So it wasn't anything special. It was just a rosary that I thought was really pretty. And I wanted to get a rosary. So that's what I got. And so now that these were gifted to me, they mean a lot. And I'm so happy to have them. They're really, really beautiful. You may have noticed if you're on YouTube, you can see my Jesus canvas. This literally came yesterday. I ordered it off Etsy. It's so beautiful. It's a little low. I need to raise it up. I'll probably ask my husband to do that today. But it's so beautiful. The lighting in here probably doesn't give it justice. I'll try to post a photo of the canvas. It's so pretty and I love it so much. There's a story behind that too, but I'll share that another time. So, oh, and here, if you're on YouTube, my baptism candle. Well, it's in a box, but my candle's in here. So it was a wonderful experience. I if you're someone that's listening and you're thinking about joining the OCIA program, which by the way stands for Order of Christian Initiation for Adults. I think I got that right. It used to be RCIA, now it's OCIA. Google it, or it's in my blog. If I got that wrong. If you're someone considering going through the program, I highly recommend it. I really, really do. I had such a great experience. I don't want to give too much away now because we're waiting for Terry, but I can't say enough good things about the program that I was in. And everyone was just so nice and welcoming, no pressure. And I never wanted to quit. I never wanted to stop going to class. It never felt like work. So if you're thinking in the back of your mind, maybe it's something you want to do, I really highly recommend it. I very much enjoyed it. So switching gears a little bit, my main priority for today was to talk about the importance of having a will and a healthcare directive. Now, I mentioned that this keeps kind of coming up in my life here and there. Um, so let me back up a little bit. The reason I believe this is something that I should be talking about is from my own experiences, but also as a medium, I'm often talking about how I communicate with deceased loved ones and I send their messages, deliver their messages to clients, either in a group setting, which I did last week. Holly and I had another massage and mediumship, which was a lot of fun, or private one-on-one sessions. And it's always very rewarding. But what I've been learning throughout life over and over again is the importance of having a will and a healthcare directive. Now, I have delivered some messages from Spirit where the deceased will acknowledge if they didn't have a healthcare directive or a will and how difficult it made it for those left behind to try to figure things out. That has come up a few times in readings that I've given people. In my own life, personally, in 2013, my mother was extremely ill and she was on life support. Fortunately, she had a healthcare directive, and fortunately, I had a copy. It was a conversation she and I had probably 4 years prior. So, what was that? 2009, 2008, 2009. We had the conversation. She gave me copies of her will and her healthcare directive. And I've also learned that that's a bit rare, at least from my perspective. So I'm lucky I had those documents. When she was very sick in 2013, she required life support for, I think the max was 21 days. And then at that point, they had to do a tracheostomy and, put the tube in that way and had to figure things out. So miraculously, she made basically a full recovery. However, during the time of her hospitalization, especially when she was on life support and she could not advocate for herself, I had her healthcare directive. I was the contact for the hospital. I went in conference care meetings, talked with doctors before and after surgeries, talked about risk, potential complications. And it was so great that I had her healthcare directive because I could follow her wishes. I had a really good guideline of what she wanted. And what she wanted was to be resuscitated. What she wanted was to live as long as her quality of life wouldn't change all that much from what she was used to. And so that's what I advocated for because it's what she wanted. And so that's what I did. And very long story short, she came through after her hospitalization. She went on to a rehabilitation center. She had to learn how to walk again. She had to learn how to feed herself again. I remember sitting in some of her speech pathology sessions and she had to learn how to speak again. And they were testing memory. remember one memory test they gave her was name 10 animals you would see at a zoo. And she, of course, passed that with flying colors. Um, but it was a struggle for her to get back to life as she knew it before. So I'm so grateful that I had that healthcare directive to guide me, and it made me realize how important I need to have that for my own family. And I think there's a lot of people out there probably listening to that don't have a healthcare directive. So I want to tell you, please create one. You can download it free off the internet. You do not need, in Minnesota, as I understand it, you do not need an attorney to complete a healthcare directive. It is something you can do for yourself. You can print it off the internet for free and you fill it out, have a copy for yourself, have one for your children or a spouse or a sibling, whoever your trusted person is. I would honestly suggest having 2 or 3 people have copies. I don't remember if it needs to be notarized. It might need to be notarized. I don't think it does, but check into it. It's a very helpful document. And the other, of course, that's an important document is a living will, which I did have to reference. In 2019, my mom did pass away, and fortunately, I still had a copy of her will, and it was something I had to reference. I was the executor of the will. I needed to know what she wanted. You know, after any debts were paid, I had to figure out what to do with everything else. And because I had her will, I knew I was able to honor her wishes. Um, and I sleep well at night knowing that I could do that for her. Now, you might find something in a will that you don't agree with. If you're the executor and you see something that you don't agree with, I've always been a big proponent. You always do what's in the will. You do what that person wanted. They wanted it for whatever reason. The reason is none of our business. It's what they wanted. So I am a big proponent for you follow the will 100%. I mean, I suppose there's some circumstances where you can't follow 100% and something's kind of got to give. But generally speaking, and in the case of my mother's will, I followed it 100%. And I'm glad that I did. And I think too, I think when you do that, you follow it 100%, you do what the person wanted, it's probably good karma also. I'm just going to say that. It's not about what we want for them. It's not about what we want selfishly. It's about honoring the wishes of the deceased. And that is so important. And they trust you to do that. If you are the executor or you're someone that is involved, um, you're trusted to do that. And so you need to honor your loved one and do it. That's my view anyway. The reason I bring this up, so I had this experience 2013 and then again in 2019 when my mom passed. And it also came up more recently, sadly, last month. Um, long, kind of complicated story, but basically, another family member passed away, and I knew there was a will somewhere because of conversations and things that happened so many years ago. I knew he had a will, but I didn't have a copy of it. So um, we went into the house trying to find this will that I'm convinced exists. I know that it once existed. Couldn't find the will in the house. We even opened a safe. We had a safe locksmith come out and open a safe. It wasn't in there. I finally was able to track down the attorney who wrote my mother's will, and the attorney also wrote this other person, well, my stepfather also wrote his will years ago. And I tracked him down. He has since retired. And I thought, okay, well, at least he'll have a copy. Or if he handed his files over to a still practicing attorney, that person will have a copy. Well, not so much. So I learned that so I guess basically I should tell you, I tracked down the attorney. He has since retired. He's in poor health. I spoke with the attorney's wife. She told me that the Bar Association recommends that attorneys hang on to wills for, I think it was 6 or 7 years. That's it. Anything older than that can be thrown away, which um, I found it very disappointing, and I was kind of really ticked off because my stepdad made this will. He put the time and effort into it. He trusted the attorney would have a copy. For the life of me, I could not find a copy in the house. And I thought was pretty disturbing, actually. So we cannot produce a will. We were told to move forward as if a will does not exist. So that's what we're doing. Um, so my point in bringing up this story, which is very fresh for me and my family, um, is because it's the opposite. There's no will, supposedly. I know there is somewhere. Um, there's no will, so we have to move as if there's no will. And that's hard too, because I don't know if we're honoring his wishes. I think we are. I think the plan that we have in motion, I think truly is what he would want. And so I'm backing away, and I think it's what he would want. And so that's what's happening. But it's another example of why having a will is so incredibly important. So if you're listening to this, you don't have a will, and especially if you have children, oh my gosh, you guys, especially if you have assets, if you have a house, if you have, a decent sized bank account, whatever it is, please have a will. This is my PSA for today on the Midwest Medium Podcast. Please have a will. Please have a healthcare directive. You might be of the mindset where, oh, I'm dead anyway. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Okay, I get your point, but these documents are for the people that are left behind, the people that love you. They want to give you the funeral or memorial service that you want. Or if you don't want one, then they need to know that too. They need to know how to advocate on your behalf if a healthcare directive does need to be used if you are unable to advocate for yourself. These are very important documents. The will is not just a document for an attorney to make a bunch of money off of, although I know that can happen. Um, find yourself an attorney, ask your friends, ask around, who did they use, who did they like. It doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg, creating your will. But they're very important documents. So please do it. You are saving a lot of headache for your loved ones that you leave behind when that time comes. I've heard some horror stories where there's a lot of siblings involved. When a parent dies, there's a lot of siblings, and they fight, and it can tear families apart. And I've seen that side of things too, and it's really sad. Um, it's certainly not what the deceased person would want, I can tell you that. So please have a will, have a healthcare directive. Healthcare directive is free off the internet. And make sure your loved ones have copies. They're so, so important. So I will get off my soapbox. Thank you so much for listening today. I will be back soon with more episodes now that the OCIA program is over. My hope is to create some more episodes for you. I do it, as I mentioned before, I do it when I feel inspired, which is basically why I'm dressed this way right now. I try to be a little bit more pulled together. But I woke up this morning and I was like, podcast. I need to talk about the wills and the healthcare directives. So that's what I'm here doing. So thank you so much for listening. Subscribe on YouTube at June Hessler. One more thing. I don't look at the analytics very often for the podcast, but I did happen to look this morning, and we're in like 14 or 15 countries, something like that. So anyone in the United States, of course, thank you for listening. Anyone outside the United States, thank you so much for listening. This is a passion project that I have, and I'm so grateful that people listen consistently and have been devoted listeners. And when I see people in person now, I'm getting comments about how much they enjoy the podcast. So thank you. I kind of just ramble. I try to have a topic in mind and I just talk. So the fact that you're taking time to listen really does mean so, so much. There are some exciting things coming up that I'll share at a later time. But for now, I will tell you, please have a good day. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll be back.